Hello and welcome to Tammy, your story, your community. I tell you, we are so glad that you could join us. Thank you again so much for tuning into Tammy every week at 7 o'clock. If you're having any problems with Facebook, remember, you can always go to YouTube, your story, your community. And so I just want to thank you again for all of your calls, your texts, your emails, and for all of those unique stories. You know, I love to tell stories and I love to hear those unique stories. So I want you to make sure that you go to info@tammymccottry.com and you can send us your stories there. We look forward to it. Like I said, I've got enough stories almost till next year. So I'm excited about it, and I hope you are as well. I want to thank everyone that attended the Nino Summit. The summit was over today, and I know everyone that has a business really enjoyed having the information for the next gen internships the entrepreneurships nonstop opportunities. I want to thank Mr. Henry Ravenel, the executive director, and Cassandra Boswell, the director there. I want to thank you all for selecting me to be your ambassador. And like I say, folks, get in touch with the Southeastern Chamber of Commerce. I don't know what's happening today. I think I'm really excited because the next guest is family. And so, you know, when you have family in the house, you're all excited and you haven't seen them, and, you know, with this pandemic and everything. But we wanted to talk about a serious issue, and that is Black politics today. That's what we're going to talk about. So please send your comments in. David's going to be here. We're going to be here to just sit and talk about it. I want to tell you a funny story. Well, it's not so funny, maybe to others. But, you know, he always says, the big sister and he's the little brother. Well, that's not the truth. He's the big brother. But I want to introduce you to someone who is just phenomenal. First of all, he's a South Carolina representative, House of Representative. He's the honorable, as we say. He loves grassroots politics. He's honest. He's genuine. He fights for our rights. He's a family man, father of 3. My big sister Cheryl, he's a devoted husband, devoted son. He's a radio host, podcast host. Well, let me say this. He does it all. What can I say? And it's just such a pleasure for me to be able to be in the house, for him to be in the house, although we're not here together. But this is a man that you can count on. And the reason I wanted to have him on today was because, as I said, Black politics today, and having 20 plus years of doing this, my big brother knows how to do this. And so without further ado, I'm going to introduce you, but I'm going to introduce you to him in the special way that he knows how we do it. Representative David J. Mack III.
Oh. That's the song from the radio show we used to do together, PM Urban Edition.
That's right.
Our intro song.
How you doing, big brother?
Oh, it's good to see you. Good to see you.
Yes, it is. It's good to see you too. And thank you so much for being on the show. You know, as always, you're the man. The Mack Show. You're the man. You're such a wonderful person, and you know we have so many stories that we can share about our times together, even from when I was a little girl. And that's what I was getting ready to tell everybody. How you were an intern, I believe, at Cobra.
And I just started working. That's how old I am.
and my mother, I had to do that project on sickle cell. And she said, I got to get you tested, number 1. Number 2, I've got to make sure that you know about this and so that you can share this in your science project. Got an A on that project, by the way. But David, you were right there with me, and we've been like this.
Yeah.
And I sure thank you for that.
Absolutely. Your dad brought you by.
That's right, Daddy. Mama was the one came up with the idea.
He brought you by,
That's
and
right.
you were in school then at the time, and later on when you began doing television. And I always was a fan of yours, even before we got to know each other. I was a fan of yours, and the other story goes how we started radio, the old WPAL, and we had a consultant to come in, and we talked about doing a daily show with a co-host, a female co-host. So he had these list of people, big list of people. When he got to your name, I said, "Stop right there. That's who I want," because I had seen you on television. You had that it factor, that you knew. I knew you would be able to connect with audiences, and we had a great time.
Well,
We had a great time.
don't make me cry on this show. Don't make me cry. But one of the things that I said, we can always count on you. Even when I started television and Comcast came to me with these contracts, I said, I can't talk to anybody but who? David Mack. When I got married long years ago, back then, getting ready to meet the young man, I said, you gotta meet my big brother. Can't do it without him. And so I want to thank you. I want to thank Cheryl. I want to thank the family for always being so supportive. David, we're talking about each other, but one of the things that I wanted to start with was I want you to tell us a little bit about who you are, because you're getting ready to make a big change in your life now. And I want you to kind of tell people, for those that don't know you, who is David Mack?
Born and raised in Charleston, David Mack III. A lot of folks that are longtime Charlestonians know my family. I lost my mother last January, but she was a longtime school teacher. She was at the old Barnes Wilson High School. She was a math consultant later on, and 2 years adjunct professor at the College of Charleston. My father was a high school football coach, school teacher, vice principal, director of adult education, first African-American school superintendent of the city of downtown Charleston. So I was very blessed. My grandparents were outstanding, both here and away. My mother's from Sumter. A lot of folks knew my grandfather. He was a general contractor here, had his own business. So I just was very, 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 very blessed. I'm also, as you mentioned, blessed to have 3 sons, David IV, Brandon, and Daniel, a beautiful granddaughter by the name of Nadja. My wife is phenomenal. Of course, a lot of folks don't know. I think a lot of folks do know she's been my campaign manager over the years, and that's a good fit because husbands are used to doing what they're told to do anyway. To follow what your campaign manager tells you to do. So I've been blessed. I'm in good health at my age, and everything is going well. Very blessed.
That's right. Well, not only that, you served in the House of Representatives for a long time.
It's 24 years.
That's right. That's
24
right.
years. Had the honor of chairing a couple of subcommittees, the Health and Human Affairs, the Health and Environmental Subcommittee on the 3M Committee, and right now in the Banking and Consumer Affairs Subcommittee on the Labor, Commerce, and Industry Committee. So, and I've been chair of the Legislative Black Caucus. So it's been a great run.
Yeah, and David, not only that, you're an entrepreneur. I mean, you've got your own radio show, you've got a podcast show that we're going to talk about, and I mean, and an entrepreneur. You're doing some phenomenal things. So let's talk about who inspired you as you have evolved through these years.
Well, first and foremost, family, as I mentioned, incredible parents, incredible grandparents, aunts and uncles. I've been blessed with an unbelievable family structure, number one. Number two, people outside. One of the things I advise young folks all the time, one of the best advice I got when I was just out of college, and I kind of knew it, this world is about relationships. I had one of my mentors would always say, people always say it's not what you know, but who you know. He would say it's not who you know, but who knows you. So that becomes very key, relationships. And I've been blessed with relationships. I've been doing talk radio for over 40 years. This November will make 41 years. And I tell young folks, I didn't go to college to take broadcasting. I didn't have an interview. I didn't have a rehearsal or an audition, but I just kept hanging around the station. Bill Saunders took a liking to me, and one day he said, "Boy, come in there and get on the radio." So that's how that worked. And so, and that's how I've been blessed so much. So I tell young folks all the time, what you want to do in life is whatever you are designed to do, you show up. You show up. If you want to be a veterinarian, and I use that example because I don't know any veterinarians. I don't have a pet at this point in time. But if you want to be a veterinarian, go to a veterinarian's office that you know is good and tell them, I will sweep up, I will clean cages, I'll do anything. I just want to learn. Now, you build that relationship and you do what you're supposed to do. What kind of recommendation you think you're going to get from that veterinarian? Not only that, the contacts, you'll have something, quote unquote, on your resume. But that's what this world is all about. It's all about relationships. And as you carry yourself, have integrity, have a set of values so that people would want to respond to you. They want to get to know you, and thus they want to be able to help you if you need help.
That's right. And the funny thing about it is you and I both went to the same college.
The great Howard University.
HU, and Bison.
The best.
And the thing about it is, David, people don't know this, but you are really a scientist. Your side, we've been talking about this COVID and everything that's been going on, but you really are a scientist. And just like me, microbiology, you were zoology, right? Biology, zoology. Dr. Ampy and Dr. Twitty, but we won't go there. But we remember that. and people don't realize that. But as you said, you've been blessed and you've had the opportunity to do so much and to make a change and a difference in people's lives throughout South Carolina. And we want to say thank you for that, David. Go ahead.
I just want to say, thank you. And again, I say it over and over again because it's ingrained in me. I've been blessed so much. Yes, I have a biology degree from Howard University, and to show you how life works, my goal was to work with animals, to go out in the field and tag animals and stuff because I enjoyed it. It fascinated me. And the way the story goes, how I got to where I am, and as this whole saying goes, those of us that are believers, excuse me, God is the perfect navigator of time and circumstance. I'm interviewed for a job, working as a biologist, working with animals out in the wild and stuff, and as a biologist, and I was interviewed, and they were going to give me the job. So I'm thinking I'm going to get the job. I've already graduated. I'm home with my parents and stuff. Have a degree, and was hired. The guy calls me back and says that he apologizes. We can't give you the job. The guy that was going to leave, he was going to med school. His money didn't come through, so we can't hire you. Then, about a week and a half later, Reverend Albertha Cook, who is the executive director of the Committee on Better Racial Assurance, which we have the sickle cell program, she calls my father, who was school superintendent at the time, said, "Do you know anybody with a biology degree? We have this opening." My father said, "Yes, I got one living at home with me." So I go in, I'm interviewed. Bill Saunders is the executive director. I not only love the aspect of working with individuals with sickle cell anemia, I not only love that, and the Committee on Better Racial Assurance is a community-based organization. We do a lot of things. We help those things. We help people help themselves, whatever needed to be done, working in the community and doing that. And that's how I got to know Bill Saunders. That's how I got to the radio station and hung around. And as a little boy, I would grab a pencil and talk into it like it was a microphone.
Wow. Wow.
So I know it's redundant, but I am just, as I get older, I understand so thoroughly how blessed I've been and how blessed I continue to be.
That's
because,
right.
And there's a saying, God is the perfect navigator of time and circumstance. So that's how that came out.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is. And I tell you what, being on that radio station the first day you left me, I thought I was going to die. Even though I had done television, but being in the radio, just you don't have anybody to talk to but the wall.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Mm-hmm.
and you taught me. I
Mm-hmm.
love to talk. I love to meet people. You taught me at that day that you're going to do this. And I read every newspaper, everything talked about every topic that was heavy, that was happening. And I remember you saying, you did a good job. And I was like, when it was over, I did.
Mm-hmm.
So having that and having that sense that you have, and what we used to do on PM Urban Edition was we talked about these topics, and that's why I'm so excited today to have you on the show, because I wanted to talk about where we are now. You know, David, I just read an article in the New York Times, September the 9th. It came out. It's called Faces in Power. Faces of Power. And what it said was that 80% of folks who are in power, whether that's in radio, television, government, police forces, 80% are white, 20% are either Black, Hispanic, or Native American. Looking at the Senate, where we are now, 100 people in the Senate. There are only 9 Asian, Black, or Hispanic. Tim Scott, who we know from South Carolina, happens to be the first African American to serve since Reconstruction in Congress. He's the only Black. In the House, there are 435 members. Only 112 are Asian, Black, Hispanic, or Native American. 50 state governors, three of them are Hispanic or Native American or Asian. No Blacks. What does that say about our country today and where we're going to have to get to?
There's a lot involved with that. There is the challenge that people of color have in this country of being able to grow and develop, because quite frankly, a lot of families have have challenges of having just the economic resources, and not only economics, but the social resources, everything to do well. You know, you and I are examples of that. We've done well because of our infrastructure with our family. Your daughter, Catherine, is doing phenomenal. Well, look at her mom, look at her grandparents, the infrastructure. So we have to work on a political standpoint. You know, I tell folks, as far as politics is concerned, I use the term, don't try to outthink. It's rather simple. There's basically, I always say there's 5 things everybody wants, whether they're Black, white, Asian, Native American, doesn't matter. They want a good educational system for their children. They want a well-paying job or entrepreneurial opportunity. They want health care. They want a decent place to live, and they want to be treated with dignity and respect. Everybody wants that. Right. So I tell, and this is the real challenging part as relates to politics, to tell folks that what they need to be able to do is they need to be able to analyze folks, whether they're running for school board, city council, county council, state legislature, Congress, Washington, or the White House, any office. You have to examine them and see what their basic values are and whether they are able to deliver what you want. If somebody you pull their voting record is like it's like that says who they are. That will reflect your values. I tell folks all the time. I see commercials on television, folks saying, "Oh, he's a liberal." And like, liberal is a bad word. I'm a Christian. Jesus Christ was a liberal. I care about other folks. That's the reason to me that you serve, to serve others, but you have a capacity at whatever level of government you have a set of values where you care about other folks. It's not about yourself. It's about other folks, other people. So that's what we have to be able to drive home as we have this conversation about, politics or black politics or whatever. We still have a lot of folks that don't vote. A lot of, but black politics, it's the same thing over 40 years ago when I first started getting involved and working with campaigns and stuff. The number of folks that don't vote, and when you're talking about the black community, the number of folks in the black community that don't vote is unbelievable. And if black folk just voted at a heavy number, we can control who's governor, lieutenant governor, attorney general, every statewide office in the state of South Carolina, we can control if we voted heavily. Now, I happen to be a Democrat, and I'm not going to make this a partisan thing. I'm just saying this. I happen to be a Democrat. Had I been born before, I lived before 1948, I would have been a Republican. Why? The Republican Party was better for me at that particular time. Now the Democratic Party is better for me. This is business. This is straight up business. One of the things Tammy, one of my mentors, told me I never will forget is that politics is business. Keep emotion out of politics. Leave emotion for your religion and your love life. That's what he would say. So basically what you want to be able to do is sit down and figure out who's on your side, who's not on your side, who has your values, who does not have your values. And a lot of folks get caught up in a political party and stuff. Just look and see who's who and what's what, and then make a determination what you're going to do.
That's right. David, you said something so powerful, and it was service. And, that's the main thing that all this is about. I mean, that's what you have been doing for 40 plus years, is service to mankind. And if people don't realize that the people that they are going to elect need to be servicing, they need to be servants. And that's what we're missing today. I mean, David, you just said something that struck me. You said for 40 years, things look the same then as they do now. Have you seen any change at all when it comes to this political arena?
I mean, things have changed. We've got folks in more positions and doing more things, but for the general masses, opportunities and things of that nature. And one of the things I tell folks all the time, the state legislature, we were in Columbia last week, and there's two things that myself and my fellow Democrats fought for. Significant raises for teachers and state employees. Teachers and state employees. We've always fought for those two things. We did some things were done in the state Senate that got them some, better raises, but in the House, which we're not in the majority, we're hanging on to the same budget until we get in January and see how things go. But one of the things, let me say this, because I say this to school teachers all the time. You remember a couple years ago, about a year or so ago, the teachers came up and they really stormed Columbia and they wanted better working conditions and higher pay. And you had some teachers in the state of South Carolina, honest to goodness, they were wearing Pampers to school because they couldn't take a bathroom break. That's as sad as it can get. And I've always felt that there's three professions that God sent that are just sent by God: school teachers, nurses, and first responders. They bless our society in unbelievable ways. But one of the things I tell school teachers all the time, and I say it to state employees too, you have to organize. You're not only teachers and state employees, but you're also voters. So what you do is you do your homework, see who's been voting for teachers, who's been voting for state employees, who's not been voting for teachers, who's not been voting for state employees. Folks come up to the Capitol and, sometimes, and they're making a case for stuff, and they come to visit me, or they visit Jay Moore or Marvin Pendarvis or Wendell Gilliard, and that's fine. We'd love to see you, but we're on your side. You need to talk to those other folks who's not on your side. You need to be able to really go and spend time with them and convince them. And what I tell folks all the time, say school teachers, to organize, say get 10, 15 folks, find out who's not on your side. Arrange to see them either in Columbia or their home office at home. Make an appointment, go in there, 10 or 15 people with the 5 magic words. Make sure the 5 magic words apply to the group. What are the 5 magic words? We live in your district. And then that person is going to listen. You have to begin to leverage these things, leverage these folks, and that means doing your homework. We had teachers that came up a little over a year ago and met with us, and they had no idea how the legislative process worked. They thought, some of them thought we can get a bill done in a week and a half, you know? So again, you have to organize your teachers, but you're also voters. Your state employees, but you're also voters. And you have to organize to the point, again, doing your homework. Again, when you come up here, you come up to Columbia, you know, our group, Crystal Matthews, you know, we love to see you, but you need to be spending time with these folks who's not voting your way. So again, that's part of the political education that we like to share.
And that's one of the things that's missing. Would you say that's missing not only in our community, but in our schools? You know, David, years ago when we were in school, we learned about government. We learned the process. We learned how many senators, how many we learned how many votes was needed for the president, how many electoral votes, this type of thing. We learned all of that stuff. But I don't know, are they still teaching that in the schools?
Excuse me, not to the degree they should. You know, I had a teacher, Mr. Fred Cook, taught civics. He, you know, and teachers, you know, to be fair to teachers today, teachers back then had more freedom. Teachers today, they have to be at the 4th chapter, 3rd paragraph by week 6 or whatever. Teachers had more freedom back then. Mr. Fred Cook used to bring newspapers to school, and he used to talk about stuff. You know, Mr. I.M. Hutchison, who was my homeroom teacher, used to, you know, talk about stuff. How does this apply to life? Mr. Eugene Hunt. I mean, you used to do stuff that was just, I remember one day, and this was before they had all the movies, you know, he came into class and wrote on the board, mafia, the word mafia. I'd never heard of mafia before. And he looked, he said, never be a part of this. And then he went on to explain it. I mean, life stuff, you know, that's what made it so special because, you know, there's an old saying, you could teach people to do everything except think. You have to develop that. And that was sort of the infrastructure, not only just teachers, the infrastructure that we had years ago. Example I like to use that, and you know, then everybody used to walk to school, right, back in the day. And, you know, even the winos on the corner would tell you, boy, get on to school. I don't want you to be like me. And they would look out for folks.
That's right.
And I'd watch them, and if a older lady walked by, they'd hide a liquor bottle behind their back. Good morning, ma'am. Take the hat off. Respect.
That's right.
It was an unbelievable infrastructure. And the world has changed so much. I remember when my children were small, I remember you'd have to put them in the car and drive them everywhere. You know, we used to just walk and ride our bicycles all over. It was so we have to find a methodology to connect in these times. I know we can't turn the clock back and, you know, do some of those things, have some of it, but the stretch to have that infrastructure where we care about young people across the board. And that way they will care about politics. They will care about being involved with this school if their child is at school. A lot of times the simple term is exposure. How much exposure to children have, not only in politics. I'm so happy when, you know, before the pandemic, when, you know, classes used to have buses come up to the Capitol and the children are sitting up in the balcony. And I usually go up in the balcony and talk to them and, have conversations, or if they're walking around the grounds, and I'd stop and talk to them. What school you can, it's great to have you here. That could mean the world to some children. Our children had, because we had the resources to take them places so they could experience different things. A lot of children don't have that. So again, finding a methodology to do that. And also with regard to parents and families, one reason that some people don't vote is they're so focused on how to survive. I don't know how I'm going to pay my rent. I don't know how I'm going to put food in the refrigerator. So, and yeah, we can logically say, yeah, and that voting can change that. But from their standpoint, they can't get past, and I understand it, they can't get past the crisis that they're in. And I think about, to get biblical for a moment, I think about how Jesus fed the multitude before he preached. He fed them. He handled that need before he educated them. So I think that's what we have to do in our community a lot. Make sure that people have food in the refrigerator. Make sure that people have a roof over their head. Make sure some of the basic things are there. Then we build a relationship where we get them to go out and vote. But right now, the other thing that is so different, it's not election day anymore, it's election season.
That's right.
It's election season. And with the post office being what it is right now, and the things that are being done as relates to voters, it's going to be very, very important for people to utilize all this time, get a game plan, how you're going to vote early. And if you, rather than put it in the mail, if you have the opportunity to drive it down there and drop it at your election headquarters, do that.
David, and I'm glad you brought that up, because you all just had a big vote in the State House, and this vote could really make the difference in how this election is going to turn out. Because right now, the way it is, yes, we can vote, we can do the absentee ballot, but now they're saying that we cannot take it to the precinct, to your county office, your election office, and drop it off. So talk about how that went, because that process of you being there and having to do that. Talk about that, David.
Sure. We had and it worked for the primary. We did for the primary. In South Carolina, and we have what's called in-person absentee, which means that a person can vote early if there's certain reasons that they have. And the reasons can be things such as you're 65 and older, you have to work, you have a sick relative, et cetera, et cetera. There's 18 different reasons. We wanted there to be no reasons for a person not to be able to vote. We wanted folks to be able to vote because of the pandemic. You don't want older people standing up in line, and those not so old standing in line if they don't have to in order to cast a vote. So right now, there is no reason. The overriding reason is the pandemic. And we want folks to go ahead, get the information. We tried, when I say we, the Democrats, we tried to put in a provision there where the individual would not have to have a witness. We were not able to make that successful, but last time the courts ruled that you did not have to have a witness. So we're going to have to be our brother's keeper. We're going to have to watch folks to make sure, if you have older relatives and they're not used to doing that, make sure when that ballot, when the application for the ballot comes in, it goes back right away. When it comes back, you do it right away. This is about moving fast, doing what you need to do. You don't want to wait the week before the election and put something in the mail and hope and pray it gets there. Right. You want to be proactive. You want to jump on it. You want to be able to get the voting done. And we don't know what's going to be done from a corrupt level as it relates to voting. Some of the things that's been done around the country as relates to in the state of Kentucky, folks have gone to vote and some polling places have been closed. And really, it's the way it's supposed to work. If you're in line to vote at 7 o'clock, the cutoff time, you're supposed to be able to vote.
Oh, that's right.
They mark who the last person is. I don't care if the line is there to keep them there till 10 o'clock at night. If you're in line, you are by law supposed to be able to vote. So again, we look for some really crazy stuff to be happening. We look for some unethical, some basically wrong things to be happening. So we have to be on top of our game. We have to be our brothers and sisters keeper and make sure that the voting takes place. I'm a big believer in, Tammy, you mentioned it earlier, in process, the process of voting. When I was in school, I loved history. I loved government. I loved civics. I loved the process, So, we have to make sure that we're doing that. We're on top of that, and we're doing that which we need to do.
Yeah. And David, these are the challenges that we have today. The challenges of trying to make sure that, as you said, we are our brother's keeper. I mean, because as we know, a lot of people are going to be doing some crazy stuff out here.
Mm-hmm.
They have already started. I mean, with the mail system, everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's just it's just designed so that certain people will be able to get back in office. So they think. But we know the God we serve. And so that, I just want to say that. But there are those challenges. So David, what are your thoughts right now about where we are going? And I'm not talking about Democratic, Republican. I'm just talking about where we're going as a nation. Where do you see this with the pandemic and the riots and the police brutality and all? What do you see in all of this? What is your thought pattern as you sit back and you look at the news and you say, my God, what do you think about all of this?
I'm afraid. And you know me as well as anybody, Tammy. I'm very optimistic about stuff, but I'm really fearful of where we are right now. Very fearful of where we are right now. We are the hate, and I've always said leadership creates a culture. Leadership creates a culture. Pardon me. And what we have in the White House right now is just generating so much hate. It is just bringing out the worst in a segment of people. And, and right now, as I said, we're not at a point where we're about Democrats and Republican and partisan politics. It's about decency and respect. Just doing the right thing. Nobody in their right mind wants to defund the police. That's insane. And if a few people have said that and some folks have jumped on it, nobody wants to defund the police. But when you have a person down, any person, is usually black, don't kneel on his neck for 8 minutes and 46 seconds until he's dead. Don't do that. Don't shoot people in the back.
Yeah.
Don't shoot people in the back. I'm a strong supporter of police. I am. But when something is done that's wrong, Breonna Taylor sleeping at home. And on top of that, it's the wrong house. She's in her bed sleeping.
That's right.
And when the boyfriend pulls a weapon, they said, well, aren't you supposed to be armed? This crowd that loves, the Second Amendment. If somebody's breaking in your house and it's the wrong house, a young man jogging, a young man wearing a hoodie. This is wrong. It's flat out wrong. And again, we have to be able to call these out and don't try to make it sound like we hate the police department. We want to defund the police. We don't. We just want the right thing done. We just want to be treated with dignity and respect.
Yeah.
And there's been a lot of videos on social media where you had usually white males fighting the police, and they live to tell about it. They're swinging stuff at police officers, and they live to tell about it.
That's right.
And you tell me you've got that, and if a black person reaches for a cell phone, they could die. If they turn their back on you, they could die. They're wearing a hoodie, they can die. That's that we have. And let me say this with regards to a lot of the riots and stuff that are happening. A lot of this is being done by third-party individuals, not the people protesting.
That's right.
It is within your constitutional rights to protest peacefully. But there have been folks coming in, and there's been some documentation on this in a lot of these areas, folks coming in, and they have come in with the sole purpose of destroying things, causing havoc. And we have to, I think both sides have to understand that, and we have to be able to have conversations with rational people with regards to how we move forward.
That's right. David, you keep talking that, and that word keeps coming up: organizing, education. And so in that vein, want to kind of talk with you about voting, because you said a lot of things earlier, but I want you to kind of walk people through what this process is going to be like when it's time for us to vote. What is it that we need to do at this point right now? Today is September the 17th. What should we be doing?
Okay. What you want to be able to do is you want to go online, call in, and order a voter registration, your application for a ballot. That's what it is, an application for a ballot. When that comes, you fill that out and you send it back in. They will send you a ballot, not a sample ballot. They will send you a ballot. You fill that ballot out. We don't know whether the witness part is going to be ruled out or not at this point, but assume there's going to be a witness signature, which I think is ridiculous. But you fill that out, ballot out and get it back in. But I think one of the main things I want people to do is to have this conversations in the circles you run in, with members of your church, with members of your family, with the groups that you're friends with, that you hang out with, any fraternities, sororities, any organization. Right now with the Committee on Better Racial Assurance, our sickle cell anemia program, I'm doing a Facebook Live tomorrow night as relates to sickle cell patients, because again, if you're a sickle cell patient, you don't want to be, you have a chronic disease, you don't want to be standing out in line and trying to vote. So you want to be able to jump on this early. You want to be able to get that ballot, and then get that ballot back in. And as we emphasize, if you are able to do it, drive it to the headquarters, whether you're in Charleston, Berkeley, Dorchester County, wherever you may be, drive it back to the headquarters, drop it in the drop box at the headquarters. If you have to do by mail, do it early, as soon as possible. I'm very nervous about the post. Who would have thought we'd be talking about the reliability of the post office? And things have been coming late to folk. There was a lady that got something in the mail. It was a bill, and she got the bill past due date. And she's somebody that pays on time. People get their medicines by mail. People get their Social Security checks by mail. So again, this is hurting a lot of different people.
Yeah, and we've got to be proactive, and we've got to be ready for this. David, want to talk with you because time is running out pretty quickly. I mean, I just love everything that you're talking about, and so much information. Talk about your radio show, because on the radio show, this is what you do. You educate people. You give them an opportunity to come in and talk to you on the air and find out what's on their minds. Let's talk about the Mack show, the David Mack show.
Okay. Yes. As I mentioned earlier, I've been doing radio at some point in time for 40 years. This November will make 41 years. And part of that 40 years was doing the show with you and Sister Tara Suber.
Oh, yes.
Controls. The three of us had a good time.
Yes, we did.
Every evening doing that show. But the I was taught in radio, and again, Bill Saunders, who's my number one mentor outside my family. You would listen to him when I was in high school and college, listening to him on the radio. And when I was in Washington, D.C., there was a radio talk show host by the name of Petey Green. And there's a movie, Talk to Me, that is out on his life. And I used to, when I was in college, I'd listen to Petey Green, and when I came home, I'd listen to Bill Saunders. I've always been fascinated with regards to radio, and the basic premise is giving people information. A lot, some folks may think, with me being a Democrat, I have radio programs dealing with, well, Democrats good, Republicans bad. No, I don't do that. It's about information, and the true essence is, and this is what Bill Saunders used to always say, and I've followed up on that. If you give folks the information, they'll tend to do the right thing. Again, regardless of race, creed, color, national origin, or whatever, you give people the right information, they will do the right thing. And that's the bottom line. We want to let people know how the political process affects everything in your life. Like I said, what kind of schools your children go to, housing issues, people making salaries, the jobs that people have now. You see them in grocery stores and, maybe bagging groceries or working at fast food places. Back in the day when I was a teenager, those jobs were for teenagers for quote unquote spending money. But now you have people trying to run a household, trying to survive off of $10, $15 an hour. You can't do it. You just flat out cannot do it. It's what I call the big eight. The big eight are the expenses one will have throughout life. The basics: lights, insurance, taxes, food, house, car, water, phone. I didn't mention cable television. I didn't mention eating out. Lights, insurance, taxes, food, house, car, water, phone. Car, if you don't have a car, transportation expenses. Those are expenses everybody have. And again, it just bothers you when you know that so many folks you know what breaks your heart? Here in Charleston and other places, when you have places giving away food now, and you see cars lined up. These are people that own cars.
That's right.
That had jobs, but their jobs have disappeared. Right. And all of a sudden, and some of the money they were getting at the very beginning to help them do that's been cut or non-existent. So people are suffering. There's a thing as relates to housing. The moratorium on rent. That's over now. People have some very, very serious problems. But again, tying that into the aspect of two things: doing what you have to do, finding creative ways, honest, legal, and moral, to do what you have to do to make it, and then at every level of government, voting people in that have a set of values that are good.
That was my next question. I wanted to ask you about what type of leadership are you looking to, or that we need to have? What type of leadership do we really need to have to move our country forward? Because the leadership we have right now, it's just, that's all I can say.
I think again, I go back to the same word. What values do you have? And there's the old saying that you could tell a politician values. You look at their budget or what they agree to as relates to their budget. But right now, it's not difficult to see if you have any type of I don't know. I'm searching for a word. Common sense, I guess, is the only word you can use. Who cares about people? Who cares about people? One of the things that, there's so many things that made me sick to my stomach with this president, but one was, he thought it was okay to have children in cages, separated from their parents. Who does that? Who does that? And so many elected officials in Washington just was quiet about it. We're going to follow the party line. We don't see anything reprehensible about that. But it just makes you sick. It just makes you sick. So again, one of the things I love about government, and it really, there's three branches of government. It's not a dictatorship, and the three branches of government has really kept us from being in an even worse position than we are right now. I watch some of these commercials, and boy, they hate Nancy Pelosi. They hate Nancy Pelosi. And wait a minute, you might have political differences with Nancy Pelosi, but you're going to disdain Nancy. You're going to hate Nancy Pelosi and not the guy in the White House. He's okay. It's just unbelievable.
Yeah.
So we have our work cut out for us right now.
Yeah.
As I always say, it's election season. It's not election day anymore. And let me say this: logistically, we cannot. Even if we wanted to, we couldn't vote everybody on the same day. We have over 300,000 voters in Charleston County, and before the pandemic, we had 55 to 60 people moving into Charleston County every day. 50, not tourists moving in every single day. 50, 60 people moving in every day. So we have to be focused on what we have to do. This is very serious. I've heard it. I agree with it. Vote like your life depends on it.
That's right.
It does. At least the lives of our younger folks. So let's get serious and let's do this thing.
Yeah, we got to do this. And so that brings me to my final question. My brother, what's next for you? Because you are not going to be back. And I just found that out when you told me about it, that you won't be seeking re-election. And so what's next for David Mack?
A lot of the same. I mean, I'm not going to be home sitting on the porch. I'll still be doing my radio show. I've got a business, as you mentioned. I'll still be doing that. I had a lot of traveling scheduled before the pandemic. We're all making adjustments to that. And I'll be helping some other candidates. We have some young folks. A guy by the name of Dion Tedder has won the Democratic nomination for my seat. He has a Libertarian running against him, so I'll be helping him, and I'll be helping J.A. Moore and Crystal Matthews and all the Democrats that have opposition. Jamie Harrison, I'm excited about him. I want to get him over. So I'll be very busy. I'll be working.
Well, you're gonna be working, and I'm gonna have you come back on the show. And then not only that, you forgot to mention you're gonna be doing a podcast.
That is in the works. We haven't started yet, but we are going to be doing that pretty soon. We'll be starting a podcast, and so just be on the lookout for that. I'll probably come back on to promote that. But I'm so excited about you, Tammy. I talk about your live streaming every Saturday on my show. I talk about that because, again, you do a phenomenal job in terms of, even when you first started doing Single Parents Corner. I mean, it was good information. That's what informational shows are supposed to be, where you leave and you've learned something. You've gotten a little smarter. And even with Single Parent Corner, and I'd watch it, and I wasn't a single parent, but I just got a joy out of watching it and watching you. So again, I congratulate you on your show, this show, and I'm honored to be on.
Well, thank you so much, David. You're gonna make me cry, but I'm not gonna do it on the air. I just want to say thank you for your leadership. Thank you for your brotherhood. Thank you for always taking me in, and Catherine, and giving us those words of wisdom that we need, even without Cindy and all. I mean, I just want to thank you, and thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for serving the state of South Carolina, and all that you have done to fight for the rights of those that really can't fight for themselves. And so I really want to thank you for that. And my love to Cheryl and my nephews and my grandniece and all. Thank you so much for that. Last thing, describe David in 3 words.
David is blessed. David is blessed.
David is blessed. 3 words.
Mhm.
Wow. Go ahead. Did you see what I'm talking about? My big brother, David Mack. Listen, David, I love you and I thank you so much. Was there anything else that you wanted to share with the folks before I say goodbye to you?
Well, my show comes on WJNI 106.3 FM every Saturday at 1 o'clock on based out of Charleston, and keep up with Tammy. She does a phenomenal job. My baby sister.
Oh, thank you, David. Listen, did you want me to put your telephone number on here as well? If people want to get in touch with you, because I know you've said a lot. So how do you want people to get in touch with you? We can put up your email. They can email you.
Okay. You can email me at the Mack3show@yahoo.com. That's it. That's it. Y'all on the ball. Y'all on the ball.
Hey, we got you. We got you. David, again, my brother, the best to you. Congratulations on your retirement. And thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Tammy.
All right. Love you. Tell everybody.
Love you too. Take care. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye. Oh, wow. What did I tell you all? Great show. Love talking with my big brother, David Mack, South Carolina State Representative David J. Mack III, and just all that he said. First of all, you know, I wear this vote pin, and so we've got to get out and vote. Second of all, he said, be organized. When you go to those folks, tell them those words, the 5 words. We live in your district. But more importantly, take someone, make sure that they know the voting process, and you start learning the voting process. Teach our young people about what we need to do, because we've got to get forward. We've got to move forward. We can't move backwards. So anyway, I want to thank you all for joining the show. Next week, we're going to be speaking with Avery Kelly. Avery Kelly is a young lady who produced a documentary on Soul Train. And so she has her own talk show called Tweetum Talk Show. And so we're going to be talking with Avery. Avery's in Chicago. Look forward to speaking with her and look forward to seeing you. So again, this show is about inspiring you, igniting you, and revolutionizing you to do what you need to do in your communities. It's about telling your story, and it's about your community. This is Tammy McCottry. Thank you so much for joining me. Everyone have a blessed week. Bye-bye.